everybody! All right, so, welcome to Facebook Live, and I'm Gail Carriger, in case you didn't know. In which case, what are you doing watching this live? And we are going to talk about Romancing the Werewolf, dun dun dun, and anything else you guys want to talk about, of course. Here's the good Romancing the Werewolf, here is the bad one. As you can see, this is a weird off-print, which CreateSpace decided to do. Not sure why they did that, hoping it's not shipping like that. Because they assure me it was a mistake. Hi, Katie. Hello, everybody. So a few of you have diligently already sat through a live over on the Spoilerverse, where we talked all things spoiler. So now we're going to have a nice, lovely, proper chat that's hopefully not spoilery at all. If anybody asks me a question that is a spoiler question, I'll just say I can't answer that. I'm sorry. You guys are so awesome and so diligent following me through all of my lives all over Facebook. Anyway, I do the live here on my Facebook page because it's way easier to manage and pin it and kind of edit it and make sure it looks nice afterwards. So that's why I always force you all to come over to the page to watch the lives, because it's just way easier to manage here. Anyway, so for those of you for whom a live is a new thing, I pretty much just run these as Q&As, so I hope you guys have a ton of questions for me, and I will happily answer any questions that you have. I'll just start off a little bit while you think of your questions, talking about how the book came to be. So for those of you who have read the Parasol Protectorate series, this is one of the last threads that I left up in the air at the end of that series, and I had always intended to come and write their Biffy and Lyle's romance and their reunion. It just got a little away from me, and I got a couple of other book series to write first, and then finally I came back and actually wrote it. So I did always intend to write it for you. Yeah, and the accidental part of this book is that it turned into a holiday kind of Christmas romance, which was really just because I was writing it last year around this time, and so it just morphed into this because, you know, it just felt like that was the right thing for it, I guess. And the other fun sort of background bit of information about this book is that this image, which I love, obviously I've been crowing about it for months, I found the image about 3 years ago, a while ago, and just jumped on it immediately. I basically was like, please, I went to the photographer, please, can I buy it for a book? Like, he's like, what book? I'm like, I haven't written it yet, but I knew I'm gonna want that image. So that's how I got the image. And it's just like, even though maybe they don't look exactly how you would imagine the characters, and of course, Lyle's got a bit more facial scruff than he probably should. It's just the emotion of the two of them, the way they're interacting with each other, how loving they are together. Like, it just spoke to me so much of those two characters that's why I had to have that image for the cover. So that's how Romancing the Werewolf pretty much came into existence. Yes, and then of course I did a whole bunch of other things to them. I gave them a whole pack to take care of and a whole purpose. Purpose is really important to me. I feel like true happiness, and this is probably just because it's my own personality, but I feel like true happiness is incorporates with it a sense of kind of loyalty and responsibility and friendship. And so I needed to give Biffy and Lyle that as well. Not just each other, but also a whole pack to take care of, and kids to take care of, and a new neighborhood to look after. So yeah, that's kind of what that book is all about, is a sort of building your own family and a sense of family and stuff. But then frankly, that's what all of my books end up being about. Clearly my my objective as a writer is to write more of that. So everybody seems settled in for the live. Thank you for all the compliments. That's very kind. So our first question is, now that Lyle and Biffy have been reunited, are we going to learn more about Lyle's past and his romance with Alessandro? Well, that I kind of have slated for Alessandro himself. So I'd really like to write some Alessandro stories, probably linked shorter stories that could be all combined together as a sort of serialized snippets, rather like his diaries. And so you would get that romance, but from Alessandro's point of view rather than from Lyall's point of view. And in that particular instance, and this is no like spoiler or anything if anybody's at all familiar with the earlier books, Lyall acts as a kind of savior for Alessandro, but of course it's also sad and bittersweet. And as a general rule, I don't write tragic books, so it would be very challenging for me kind of emotionally as an author to write the full scope of Alessandro's story, because we all know that it ends sadly. So I struggle with that as a writer, and that's one of the reasons that I haven't really pursued him that much, but I would like to. I would definitely like to. Ty wants to know about Pepper and Mrs. Trickle and their appearances. You know what, Ty? If you're on Pinterest, right? Just send me a note, and I will link you to the secret board, and then all of this will be solved. But yeah, I even have like actors I can imagine in their roles, so I know what they look like. Pepper is kind of a tough, short hair, darker skin. She's mixed race, so and she has some Latina blood in her. And then Ms. Trickle, who is our Kelpie character, and we're talking about the San Andreas Shifter series all of a sudden, in case anybody is curious where we went and why we're suddenly talking about a Kelpie, is really big. She's big and statuesque, and almost white blonde. And that's because I have another very distinct idea of what her other form looks like as well. So those two tie together. Let us see. Sarah would like to know if I will be addressing more of Lyle's trip he took before heading back to London and the scruff that resulted. I don't know. I mean, I know what happened. Pretty much he just hung out with Alexia and Conall and helped them start their tea business, and kind of made friends again with Conall. You know, repaired old breaches and that sort of thing. So, and I imagine Conall being Conall, it took longer than he thought, and then Alexia probably started some sort of revolution while they were at it. So, you know, there was a mess to clean up in Cairo as well. I left it purposely kind of up in the air because I might need it for the Custard Protocol series. So, although, or I might need to refer to it. I wasn't, because I'm not quite sure where the final book is going logistically in the world. Although I think I finally decided, and I probably won't need it. But at the time, I left it open-ended so that I could use it. But yeah, I mean, if there might be a story there that I could write at some point. But it's nice to have some stuff ambiguous in case I need it later, so to speak. I'm learning that. It was Douglas Adams who was famous for saying never blow up the earth in chapter 1 because you might need it later. And it serves a writer well on occasion to leave a couple of things kind of up in the air in case she requires them, especially if you're a writer like me who has so many threads in so many different books and so many different series. Let's see. Katie loves that Lyall hates his first name, and that's the most relatable weakness. I agree entirely. Never been a fan of my first name, so there you go. Hi, Eva. Eva's squealing at me. Is this your first live? That's very exciting. So Michelle Rodriguez for Pepper, possibly. Pretty tough though. I mean, Pepper's pretty tough looking. Tilda Swinton is possible, but I was thinking, I'm sorry, you guys, I forget her name, but the actress for Miss Trickle, the actress who from Game of Thrones, Gwendolyn. Yeah, see, I suck at this. This is not, trivia is not my game. Oh my goodness. Charlotte wants to know if there's going to be development of the cook character. I kind of utilized the cook character as sort of a comedic throwaway, like, what's the cook up to now? And the cook and brewer are in this, like, funny, tiny private war over food all the time. And Primrose is kind of has to be a balance between the two of them because Rue always wants more sweets and more exciting, interesting things, and the cook is like a real basic Victorian chef in terms of like, you know, we're gonna stick with what I know. So there, you know, and then Primrose is like, well, I can't stock like that kind of meat, so you're gonna have to try goat because it's what we can get. So eat the goat, you know. It's gonna be that kind of sort of little dynamic. So I hadn't really imagined expanding the cook's character all that much, although it would be kind of fun to get a like an upstairs downstairs perspective on the custard, on the spotted custard. Katie wants to know if Conall was cured of Alpha Curse. Well, yeah, I mean, it just stopped because he went to Egypt, and he's now gonna age and die and be immortal. Not immortal, mortal. So he and Alexia get to grow old and die together. And that is in part me poking fun at one particular trope which is very prevalent in urban fantasy, which is that the two characters, one of whom is a vampire or a werewolf or whatever, and then the other character who is immortal, the solution to them being together forever is for them both to be immortals. So for her to be turned into a vampire or a werewolf, or for him to be turned into a Kitsune or whatever. And so, and I think, and then they literally get eternity together, which, let's be very clear, is terrifying. I can't imagine spending eternity with anybody. I am very much in the Lord Akeldama camp on this. Like, I would just surround myself with beautiful people, and go from there. But yeah, so I've always been a little wigged out by that solution to this romance, to this whole sort of genre of urban fantasy and paranormal romance, which is that the two end up together because they're both immortals. And so I had always intended for Alexia and Conall to end up together but have to be mortal. And I set it up that way, and I always intended it to be that way because I think it is like a bazillion more times romantic for somebody to choose to die with you than it is for somebody to choose to live forever with you, which is not romantic, but is in fact kind of creepy and scary. So that's why I did it the way I did it. So yes, Conall will no longer be mad because the madness is brought on by the sort of fraying of the tether and his lack of ability to hold the pack together and hold on to his own immortality on the same time. So he doesn't have that anymore. So he's removed from the pack. He's removed from his own immortality. So the insanity side of being alpha is taken away. The curse is gone the moment he's in the Godbreaker plague zone. So he's just an ornery old dude at this juncture, I suspect. Crabby and opinionated and over emotional, and madly in love with his wife, and they're poodling happily along with their tea import-export business, and probably some minor local revolutions. Sarah wants to know if updates on the timeline for the next custard protocol. Updates on the timeline. I'm afraid, Sarah, I don't understand your question. Oh, you mean the release date for the book? It is in the summer, and we are merely arguing over which exact date in the summer. So July, August, probably, and it's just a matter of exactly what date in July, or so, you know, sometime in July or early August, I think. But they're just not telling me the exact date. But it's totally in production. It's got cover. I haven't been permissioned to release the cover to you yet, so that'll go out to the Cheer Up as soon as they let me. So it's just, we're just waiting patiently for me to be given the go-ahead with a date to tell you. But definitely in the summer. So yeah, and that's Competence, and it's really fun and silly and hilarious, and it is Primrose's book. So you get Primrose and Percy. Percy is your secondary point of view in character in Competence. And it starts out in Singapore, on a way station in Singapore. So. Sue wants to know, what about the Wicker chicken and soap? Well, you got them. You know what happens to them now if you've read Romancing the Werewolf. And there's a big gimme for those of you who haven't read Romancing the Werewolf. But guess what? You find out a little bit about those two characters. So yes, they're good. I hope. Tiana, is that how you pronounce it? Is still interested in leap from archaeologist to author. I talked a little bit about that on the Anthropologist on the Street podcast interview that I just did recently. So go find that and check it out if you like. Yeah, it wasn't that big a leap, I don't think, anyway, because I was always writing even while I was excavating, and it's just that the writing took over more and more of my life, and so eventually I had to give up the archaeology in favor of being a full-time author. I know, woe is me. Although I love archaeology and I still miss it. It's a wonderful profession. So I am, and always have been, one of those incredibly lucky people who gave up, who has two careers that she loved, and then is in the sort of rock and a hard place, enviable position of having had to have picked between the two. So that's pretty much how I made the leap. I just chose one because I had to, because there was only one of me and not enough time. You guys are so funny. I'm reading the comments right now looking for other questions, and there's a lot of silliness going on. Book says, I just make my husband's life feel like it's forever. And I think if I were married to Alexia, that would definitely feel like forever. Man. Sally wanted to tell me that she just got home from work and her book is the right size, so hooray! For those of you unfamiliar with my crisis, this is the size that the book is supposed to be, which is 6 by 8. And when I ordered it from Amazon, this is the size that they sent me, which is 6.5 by 8.5. And so I, of course, panicked and contacted Amazon CreateSpace, their distributor, and called them and said, what are you doing? Why are you printing it on the wrong size? Did I do something? Because I always think, oh, I set it up wrong. I didn't put the right numbers into the system or something. And they basically assured me that it was just a one-off mistake, but I don't trust them. So I asked the Parasol Protectorate Facebook group if they were all if everyone was getting this size, because this is the size you're supposed to get. And Sally says she got it, so fingers crossed everybody did. If not, this could be the only one in existence with the white border. But I'm still so nervous. Everything seems to be going wrong with this launch. Emma wants to know how I started when it comes to world building. I started pretty much thinking kind of intellectually about what would happen if you put the supernatural creatures, vampires, werewolves, and ghosts that the Gothic literary authors were talking about during the Victorian times. What if I took them and put them into Victorian times and made them actually exist? How would the Victorians react to them? How would Victorian culture react to them? And how would scientists react to them? And that kind of had these sort of steampunk consequences. Just this sort of intellectual exercise, thinking about what would happen if supernatural existed and was open and accepted in Victorian society. What would be some of the repercussions of that? And that was kind of just the intellectual experiment that spawned the whole world building. Basically, although I can't remember whether I did that or Alexia's character first. Katerina wants to read a short story about Egypt as with a werewolf retirement village in it, and I think that's, especially if it was all the alphas who had to go there eventually, that would be really funny. Charlotte wants to know if Percy is going to get a love interest in Competence. He does not have one in Competence, but he does have one in Incompetence. And Incompetence is only a working title, I should say. I'm not sure my publishing house wants to keep that as the title. So they have changed titles on me in the past. They may do so in the future. but you know, incompetence is good enough to be going on with. Yes, so competence is written from the point of view of Primrose and Percy. So the twins are basically the point of view characters for the book that will be out in the summer. And then the book that will be coming out probably next summer in 2019 is Percy's book, and he has a romantic love interest, a girl named Arsenic. So yes, Nikki, you will get to, and she's a doctor. So I hope you will like her. I think she's great. Yeah, she's super competent, and she's kind of the first character I've really written intentionally as a new woman character. I mean, I intend to write her. I haven't written this book yet. So hopefully, yeah, so she's kind of very forward thinking and a suffragist and super ballsy and tough. So you have to be if you're going to put Percy in line. Yeah, so she is intended to be his love interest, and hopefully that's the way it will go. But I haven't written the book yet, so no promises. Sorry for the silence, guys. I'm looking through your comments. Katie wants to know what happened to Pihl Over. Well, you know, he went off to do his grumpy Pihl Over sort of thing in the world. I would like to write him as a delightfully deadly character at some point. I think he's great. I think he's hilarious. So I can't imagine not writing about him again. So I don't know what happened to him, but I might at some point in the future. Hannah wants to know if I get to spend any time in any of these locations while researching. Well, I get to go to a lot of these locations for like a book event, or in the case of some of the locations that are going to appear in Competence next summer, I went there as an excavator, so in my previous career as an archaeologist. And then I will put them into the books. So I do tend to write about places that I've visited. Not always, but most of the time. Just because I feel like I have a better sense of space. Even though I have visited these places in the modern age, and I'm writing about them in the past, there are things that I feel like don't change too much, like the way the light is, or the way the rain smells when it hits the sand. Those are sensations that are unique to areas, and they really help me as an author, even if I don't actually write about those features in the book. I feel like it's in the background. So for example, Singapore, I was there last year, right around this time, and I just totally fell in love with it, and so that's how it kind of snuck into Competence. So yeah, so the answer to the question is I don't get to like go somewhere and write it off because I'm doing research, because I'm not a travel writer. I don't write nonfiction. It's really hard to get away with that. But I do often put places that I've visited into books after I visit them because I love them. I like them so much. So, or because there's something about them that sort of triggers an idea that then becomes a bit of a story. Eva wants to know about getting them to print. Yes, they're finally available in print. You can get them in print. Yay! There it is. And the print edition also has the Curious Case of the Werewolf That Wasn't, which is the Alessandro short story. It has it as a little special at the back end. Because I was so sad about making you guys wait. I was like, okay, I'll give you an extra special little thing. The Curious Case of the Werewolf That Wasn't has appeared in print. It's just always appeared in sort of massive anthologies like the Mummy anthology and stuff. So this is your opportunity to have it coupled with the novella. So yay! But yes, it is in print. Hooray, hooray! You can definitely get it on Barnes & Noble. I know people have ordered it there for those of you in the United States, and you can also get it on Amazon. You should be able to get it pretty much everywhere else soon. So I distributed this book exactly the same way that I have distributed Romancing the Inventor and Poison or Protect. So if you have managed to get those ones in print, then however you managed to get those ones, you should also be able to get this one, because they've gone out the same way, as widely as possible, to as many territories as possible all over the world. It just, in some cases, it just takes a little time for it to get into people's systems, but yeah, you should be able to, if you've gotten it from an independent bookstore before, then you should be able to march up and say, you know, Gail has a new novella, please order it for me. And they should be able to get it. So, and please do that. Support your local. Support whoever you want to support. Support me. Somebody just noticed that my shirt is tiny umbrellas. Yes, tiny parasol shirt. I saw this years ago. I think it was at like Mac Studio or something. And I was like, well, I have to buy that. It is red and white and it is covered in umbrellas. It is made for me. Lucas says that Brazil loves me. I love Brazil. You guys are an amazing territory for me. And man, I would love to come. I've never been to Brazil and I would love to travel there at some point. And then I could put them in a book. Wahaha. Jocelyn wants to know what other actors could work as my characters. So one of the things I'm always obsessed with as an author is actors who can do the right accent. So I am of the profound and I think unshakable and truthful opinion that no American can properly do a British accent. No American. So I never cast Americans in my books, unless of course it's an American character. Which means British actors, which means I'm often looking at like BBC costume dramas. I really love character actors, so like more obscure, lesser known actors I tend to go for. I will sometimes visually choose an American or any other culture for inspiration for the way a character looks, but when actually like fantasy casting a film, they have to be able to do a proper British accent or a not so proper British accent depending on where they're from. And that means from the general territory of the UK, so to speak. So yeah, so and then I'm also, because I'm always doing stuff like this, I'm always like doing a live or writing or reading, I don't actually watch movies all that much anymore. So I'm really bad on like current actors and actresses who might be able to take on the roles. I'm just like, I just don't know. So all of my calls are like from, you know, BBC costume dramas from the 90s and stuff whenever you ask. But you can just Google, I'm pretty sure I have posts for fantasy casting of the Custard Protocol, so you could look up Prudence, and for Soulless. So I have fantasy casting for both of those. And then of course, you can always check out my Pinterest boards for all the characters to see like who visually I'm inspired by when I'm creating those characters, but also who I might want to cast in the roles. So yeah, unless you have a very specific question. Yeah, I often have ideas in mind. Sometimes I have a historic, like Maud Feely is a famous actress from the turn of the century and through the 1920s, and she was the person in my head when I was writing Imogen for the Romancing of the Inventor series. So she's a long, long dead actress. Tracy wants to know if I'll be writing any more under Gail Carriger, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but yes, I am currently writing the second San Andreas Shifters book, which will be a Gail Carriger book, which basically, for those of you who don't follow both of my identities, the Gail Carriger books just are a lot sexier and have a lot more swear words, so they're very adult. They're still silly and fun and ridiculous and me, but very hot. So you've been warned. Yes, so there'll be the second book in that series, which hopefully next year sometime, probably towards the latter end of the year, just because I'm still writing it right now. So yeah, that'll be San Andreas Shifters number 2, and it'll be novel length, so it'll be a full length book. And yeah, it'll be the same character, like the same pack, but a new romantic main character set, so so it'll stand on its own if you want it to, so you don't have to have read the first one if you for some reason didn't like Max. So I don't see why anybody would not like Max, but there it is. Katerina is excited that Percy is going to have a book, and wants to know if he'll be courted with charts and graphs. Probably. I think it's going to be a pretty awkward romance, that one. This will be a lot of like, both of them are kind of cerebral, and yeah, I think it'll be really funny to write. Gail Carriger question. Do, 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 do. Apparently Katie's boyfriend likes my lives even though he doesn't read my books. I know what that says. You should listen to my podcast. How about that? That's what it says. Yay for Australia. Hi, Australia. I love it when people are from like all over the world tuning into the lives. Also, I figure it must be an obscene time of day. And Hawaii. Oh, you guys are all so sweet from all over the world. It's so, so cool. Tracy wants to know if Major Channing will ever be explained. No spoilers. We did talk about this on the spoiler group. But yeah, he gets his novella next year, probably early next year. I'm hoping for the spring. And it's called How to Marry a Werewolf in 10 Easy Steps. And it is all about Channing. He's the main character. It takes place temporally right after Romancing the Werewolf or shortly thereafter. And you will get to see the kind of woman it takes to win Channing's heart. And you will also learn all about Channing's backstory, which is quite sad. So I'm warning you now. There might even be some triggering in there. It's pretty dark. I would say How to Marry a Werewolf is probably the darkest of the books I've ever written, and which isn't saying much for me because my books really aren't that dark. But it is a little bit darker than some of my other stuff. It's still me, right? So everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be happy. Don't worry. But yeah, Channing will be explained to you. I hope pretty much completely. There shouldn't be a lot more mystery left after that book. I think you'll understand him as much as anyone can understand anybody else, I suppose. I'm reading through your enthusiasm, which is always lovely to see. Looking to see if there are any other questions. Oh, there's Guam! This is so cool. The world is it's such a small world when Facebook Live is going. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me well, I'm assuming if you're watching my live, you know me well. I really do have an affection for kind of grumpy, curmudgeonly characters. Percy and Pihl Over and Channing and, etc. and Conall. And most of the Kingair pack and Sidhag, there's sort of these grumpy curmudgeon types. And I have a great affection for that as a writer because I include them constantly in my books. Brax wants to know if I'm going to make you love Channing, and oh yes, yes. Even if you are on the fence about Channing or you really don't like him, just give me a chance. I'll make you like him, or at least definitely pity him. Bo wants to know if there are any of my books that are good for a 12-year-old daughter, and funnily enough, Etiquette and Espionage was written for her. Probably even specifically. Yeah, I have a 4-book young adult series called the Finishing School series, which is about an all-girls boarding school where in a dirigible floating above Dartmoor in England, where girls are trained to be proper young ladies and also assassins and spies through the judicious use of manners and etiquette. And yeah, and I wrote that specifically for the next generation. I was like, I need powerful females, and I'm not breeding any of my own, so I'm gonna try and influence the next generation. And I'm a writer, so I'll do it with books. So that is the series for you, absolutely. They are totally appropriate for a 12-year-old girl. In fact, that is who they are written for. Watching from New Zealand. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, using the wrong finger. Ty would like to know if we're going to learn more about Aggie as her. Oh, you mean that period of time where Madame LeFou and Aggie were together? I don't think so. I hadn't intended it anyway, but you will learn more about Aggie eventually. You will learn why she dislikes Rue so much. If you haven't figured it out already. If you're like super obsessed with the interrelationships of my characters, you can probably figure it out. But I will also make it clear to you why Aggie and Rue are at loggerheads, or why Aggie is at loggerheads with everybody. She's also a curmudgeon character. Man, I have a lot of curmudgeon characters. Christine wants to know if they have any plans on revisiting Biffy's pack. Yes, absolutely. So the Claw and Courtship novels are coming. The Channings is the first one in that novella line, basically. So they are, and they are, most of them, at least so far, going to be set in the London pack. So the first one is Channings, and then I will probably write more with others of the pack that you've already met. So with Biffy and Lyall as the dads of the pack, and then and then we'll write some stories for a lot of the other pack members, and maybe even some of the King Gear pack as well. So that's what Claw and Courtship is all about. So yes, definitely. And the Channing novella, which comes out next year, How to Marry a Werewolf, that one takes place shortly after Romancing the Werewolf in the same pack. So it'll pick up right where How to Marry a Werewolf, it will pick up where Romancing the Werewolf left off. There's going to be a bit of a time frame move, so it's a couple months later, but yeah, so they'll be back. Everyone will be back. Would I say Sidheg's name? Sidheg. That is how I say it. I don't know how it is properly pronounced in Gaelic. Someone has thanked me for the reading series. For those of you who don't know, on my website, you can, if you're considering teaching, or if you're a librarian, you have anything to do with the Finishing School series, there is a guide. There's like a teacher's guide. It's Common Core approved. It has like discussion questions, etc., etc. So yeah, it's the Finishing School guide. You can find it via my website, and I have it just posted up there. It's free to download. So yeah, go grab it if you like. La la la. Hi everyone. Everybody's waving. Okay, Andrea wants to know if we get any follow-ups for the Finishing School girls. Well, Poison or Protect started that novella line. That's the Delightfully Deadly line. So those are adult books. I mean, not adult as in too racy, but they're adult. They're like the Parasol Protectorate books. But they are all featuring characters who appear in the Finishing School series as they practice their fine arts of assassination and espionage. So I've only written the first one in that series, which is called Poison or Protect, but there will be more in that series with more of those girls. So the first one is Prussia, and then I'm considering either Dimity or Agatha for the next one. So there will be more in that series, and yeah, so and basically it's a spy assassin series, but set in Victorian times, probably around the 1860s mainly. Katrina wants to know if we'll see Robin when he's older. Maybe. Maybe. And we'll leave it at that. Tracy wants to know who will actually be the father to their foundling. I think probably Hemming. He seems to have kind of adopted the kids, so I think the other two will mostly be the sort of authority figures in Robin's life, and Hemming is probably going to raise him. He seems to be very vested. He's a good egg, is Hemming. Ty wants to know if Sidheg's novella would fall under Supernatural Society, Delightfully Dead, or Claw and Courtship. That is an excellent question. I don't know. I have no idea. That would it would probably be the ultimate crossover, wouldn't it? If I ever wrote it, because it would be all of them. Makes it very difficult to write. Another Hawaiian fan, yay! Andrea wants to know, is they're a print, oh, gift collection. Is there like a box set of the Finishing School series? No. They did talk about doing it. So there were briefly, for those, there was briefly a box set of the Parasol Protectorate series. It was all 5 in a box. It was the mass market size. It was really cute. But it is no more. So those of you who have that box set, treasure it, because it's absolutely out of print. And they did briefly talk about doing that for, or something like that, for the Finishing School books, but they decided not to. So no, you can only buy them individually, I'm afraid. Natalie thinks that I hinted at a short story collection. I have thought about a short story collection, and I am thinking about a short story collection. But I don't have anything concrete as yet. But it's another one of those projects that is percolating in my brain. Since the wolves and vampires don't fly... Oh, all right, so I can't answer that question, Brax. Sorry. That's a spoiler. The wrong group to ask that question on. All right, my dear. So, anybody got the time? I've been having some helpful fans tell me what time it is in terms of past the hour, towards the hour, simply because I need to. I have another thing after this. So someone comment with whatever time it is. Rebecca says she's been out of the loop for a bit. Oh, Rebecca, I'm not talking about that because it is up in the air. 38 past. Thank you, Katie. Okay, cool. So we got another 10 minutes or so. So anybody got any last burning questions? After I ruthlessly dismissed 2 of them as too spoilerific to touch. Any other final questions? I think I have maybe time for 1 or 2 more. While I am waiting, I will take a drink of water. Hannah just asked a very interesting question. Is my approach to novels versus novellas very different? And the answer is yes. So I do write from an outline in all instances. But I do find that because the novellas are by their nature kind of tighter in time and space, they tend to be cozy in terms of being a household drama or a house party or something like that. So because by their nature they're kind of tight in terms of time and space, I can have a little bit more wiggle room with the side characters and the activity that's going on. So I tend to have a less strict outline when I'm writing the novellas and a more strict outline when I'm writing the novels, because the novel is all of these different threads. We're moving around the globe in the case of the Custard Protocol books. So yeah, I do end up having a different approach between the 2 styles, and I didn't realize that that was going to happen until I started writing the novellas, and I found that the novellas do tend to have this one similarity, which is they're confined in a way that my novels are not. And initially it was by accident, and I guess now it's by intent. I think it's possible to write a novella that has a little bit more action and breadth, but I haven't done that yet. Even Channing's novella, which is still coming up, is pretty confined in time and space. All right. Emma wants to know if there's anything else from Sironia. Nope. Generally speaking, if they're a main character for a series, then when I'm done with the series, I'm done with that character. There are lots of reasons for this. The main one being that they're sick of me and I'm sick of them. So Sironia is done. You will see glimpses of her as a side character in shorts and novellas whenever I feel like I need her. Although there are other spy side characters that show up, obviously. But her story is finished. The same with Alexia. Sorry, but that's just kind of the way my brain works. Ty wants to know what my favorite kind of wine is. Well, I'm a Prosecco drinker. Does that count? It's a wine. Which I guess Pinot Grigio is a similar thing. I used to be a red drinker. The Merlot, kind of the sweeter end of the reds. But I have evolved into being I would call a straight up the middle white wine drinker. I don't like anything too sweet, and I really cannot stand like Chardonnays or anything too dry or oaky at all. But a nice bright crisp. I like a dry Riesling, which is really hard to find, or a Habtrocken, a half dry Riesling. The German whites are pretty good. I could talk a lot about wine because I grew up partly on a vineyard, at least when I got older. So I got a wine education, whether I wanted it or not. That vineyard grew Merlot grapes and now does red zins. But yeah, like I said, used to be strictly red and then have become pretty strictly white as I've gotten older. I find it doesn't give me as bad of a headache or anything. So that was an interesting question coming from you, Ty. Andrea wants to know if there's a Nadasdy or an Akeldama book in the works. Nope. Like I said, there's a possibility that I might write something short and silly and ridiculous from Lord Akeldama's cat's perspective about him, but I could never write a book with Lord Akeldama as the main character, as the point of view character, because he would drive me up the wall within 2 chapters or less. So I just couldn't bear it. Can you imagine all those italics? I can't imagine wanting to read it either. I think it would have to be written by with a different POV. And yeah, I currently don't feel really compelled to explore the inner workings of Lord Akeldama's hive with any more detail than I have already. Spoo and Nigel? I think you mean Sarah's asking about Spoo and Virgil. I think you're asking about. You will see them in the next 2 books. Yes, they persist. But you ship them. I don't know that I would do that. You can if you like. They're too young for anything really. But I always imagined that they were just super good friends. And I like to present men and women as friends. Like, with no sex. It's possible. Who'd have thought? So I like to do that in my books as well. It is possible for a straight man and a straight woman to be friends, you guys. I know, but it is possible. It's also they're all possible, but it seems to me that the idea of straight men and straight women platonically friends is kind of strangely challenging to the American psyche. One movie that I weirdly love, obscure movie that I really love, or not so obscure, is A Knight's Tale. It's so bad it's good. But I really love the blacksmith character in there because she is just a female friend. Nobody, like, that's it. She just is. Like, oh, how rare is that trope? So yeah, for me, Virgil and Spoo are friends. And they're not, that's not likely to change. They're probably going to be BFFs forever, but I don't think they're romantically inclined towards each other. Marissa wants to know if we will get more about Ivy as a vampire. Well, she kind of shows up occasionally in the background or referenced by her daughter. So you get a bit of glimpse into her. I currently don't have any plans to see her for a meeting in person, but I'm totally not ruling it out because I haven't written the last Custard Protocol book yet. So it might happen. Will I be back on the East Coast in 2018? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I pretty much have my schedule set for 2018. I mean, I haven't written it down on my events page or anything yet because I haven't confirmed anything, and I kind of wait until I actually have a plane ticket before I tell people about it because, you know, I've been burned in the past when people have said, yes, come to our event, and then canceled me or the event. But I don't think I have East Coast plans. I don't know because, like I said, I don't have a release date for Competence yet, and they might want me to go to the East Coast for that. But I don't think so. I'll be back at the Tucson Festival of Books, and I'm definitely going to be at Worldcon in San Jose, which is going to be amazing. So those are a couple that I know. But yeah, East Coast, man, that'll be sad. I'll miss you guys. Natalie wants to know if Lord Akeldama has ever taken over the Parasol Protector spy group. I don't think so. He's liminally involved in it, and he probably could if he wanted to. So he might have. We just don't know. So subtle. Somebody suggests that the source of my headaches as a result of red wines is the sulfites, and I have to say that the source of my headaches as the result of wines is too much wine. So, my own fault. Just drink less. Yeah. Ty wants to know what the names of the kittens are. I haven't decided yet. They'll be named when I get good ones in my brain. In fact, one of them percolated into my psyche recently, but I promptly forgot to write it down, of course. But yes, if we meet the kittens again, I will name them, or maybe we'll have a naming the kittens contest or something. Tracy wants to know if the Prosecco was the basis for the Pink Slurp. I think the Pink Slurp came first, but I always imagined Lord Akeldama was the type to drink champagne. It just makes sense. Hannah wants me to write something from the perspective of Ivy's hats. I think the perspective of one of Lord Akeldama's cats is ridiculous enough. One of Ivy's hats is taking it too far. Tracy wants to know if I ever come up to Canada. I've been to Canada a couple of times, but I haven't made it to Toronto in this career. I would love to. All right, guys, X and A on the questions. I'm going to rush through the last of them. I'm running low on battery power, so I got to get off soon. Any chance of me coming to the Midwest? Well, I was thinking about, I almost came to TeslaCon, and I can't, that fell through. But I do make it to the Midwest on occasion. I love Chicago, so I tend to make it up there, at least. So, yes, very likely. But as with all of my events, if you just pay attention to the cheer up, it's the best way to get them. I mean, I post them to the events page, but you kind of have to remember to go check it. So if you get the newsletter, the cheer up, then it will just show up, and I'll be like, this is where I'm going to be in the next couple months. But yeah, it's just a matter of, with events, it's just a matter of who invites me, and if I have time during the month. I only do one event a month, and I'm trying to do even less than that, just because I have so many books coming out and so much other stuff going on. Travel is kind of taking a back seat these days. Speaking of which, I have the 20-minute delay podcast, so if you guys are travelers yourselves or interested in travel or whatever, my friend Piper and I do a podcast together where we talk about travel, and we give you secret tips and tricks on like gadgets and hacks and all that sort of thing to help you survive traveling in this day and age, because we both do it so much. She does it even more than I do. So yeah, so check that out. 20-minute, as in the number, 20-minute delay. We should be up on iTunes soon, I hope. We got the first 3 episodes out and more coming. But thank you guys so much for showing up for the live and for all of your fantastic support with the novellas and the books, and I really appreciate it so much that, you know, I wouldn't do this if you guys weren't out there reading them. So keep reading them, because then I'll keep doing it. And I will talk to you guys again soon. I hope to do something next month, but if not, I'll definitely do a live in January for the new year. And love you all. Bye.